Imagine being a man who once had it all, wealth, power, and freedom, until a single moment shattered your life. One car crash. One betrayal. And suddenly, you're trapped in a wheelchair, mocked by the very people who used to bow down to you. But when a stranger whispers, "Eat this and you'll walk again," he thinks it's poison. What happened next will leave you speechless. If you've ever dreamed of seeing karma crush the arrogant, smash that like button, subscribe, and let me take you on one of the most jaw-dropping revenge journeys you'll ever hear. David Sinclair was no ordinary man. By the time he turned 40, he was a self-made millionaire, owner of luxury hotels, restaurants, and investments that spread across 3 continents. People envied him, feared him, and many secretly hated him, because David wasn't just rich. He was powerful. But all that power couldn't save him from what came next. One rainy night, after closing a deal worth $50 million, David's car spun out of control. The crash should have killed him. Miraculously, he survived, but when he woke up in the hospital, he couldn't feel his legs. The doctor's words stabbed deeper than any knife. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sinclair. You'll never walk again." In that instant, his empire became a prison. The man who once climbed the stairs of boardrooms like a king was now wheeled in and out of meetings, his pride crumbling piece by piece. But the worst wasn't the wheelchair. The worst was the betrayal. His so-called friends, business partners, even some family, slowly started abandoning him. They whispered behind his back. "He's weak now. Vulnerable. Easy to replace." One by one, deals slipped away. Invitations stopped. His empire cracked. And the vultures, people he once trusted, circulated like predators circling fresh blood. And then came the humiliation. At a charity gala, an old rival, Martin Klein, raised his glass and sneered across the table. To David Sinclair, proof that money can't buy legs. Laughter exploded around the room. David forced a smile, but inside his blood boiled. The man who once commanded respect was now the punchline of cruel jokes. And it didn't stop there. His fiancée, the woman he planned to marry, left him 2 months after the accident. No explanation. Just a note: "I can't do this. I need a man who can stand beside me," literally. David's world collapsed. Nights were spent staring at the ceiling, replaying the betrayal, feeling the phantom ache of legs that no longer worked. He was alive but not living. Until one night, everything changed. It was in a dimly lit restaurant in the corner of the city, a place David had once owned before signing it away to cover his growing debts. Now he sat there alone, staring into a glass of untouched whiskey. That's when she appeared. An elderly woman dressed in simple clothes, carrying a small wooden box. She stopped by his table, leaned close, and whispered words that made his heart stop. "Eat this and you will walk again." Inside the box was a strange meal, dark herbs, a broth that smelled faintly bitter, and a single piece of bread unlike anything he'd seen before. David frowned. Was this a trick? Poison? Another way for his enemies to finish him off? His first instinct was anger. He shoved the box back. "Lady, I've had enough of people trying to scam me." But she didn't flinch. Her eyes, deep, steady, almost ancient, locked on his. "You've been betrayed. Broken. Left behind. But destiny isn't finished with you, David. Eat this and everything changes." Her words sliced into him, echoing his darkest thoughts. How did she know? Who was she? The woman placed the box firmly back on his table and whispered. "You think it's poison? Good. Sometimes, poison is exactly what a dying soul needs to live again." And with that, she vanished into the night. David sat frozen. His heart pounded. His rational mind screamed, "Don't touch it." But another voice, the voice that remembered Martin's laughter, his fiancée's cruel note, his so-called friends circling like wolves, whispered, "What if she's right?" His hand trembled as he reached for the spoon. He brought it to his lips. Bitter. Burning. It clawed down his throat like fire. He coughed, nearly spat it out. But then, something strange happened. Heat spread through his body, rushing to his legs. His toes tingled, something he hadn't felt in years. For the first time since the crash, his nerves screamed with life. David's eyes widened. His breath caught. He pushed himself, trembling, against the edge of the table. And felt his foot move. Just an inch. But it moved. For the first time in years, David Sinclair felt life surge through his paralyzed legs. But was it real, or the cruelest trick of all? What came next would not only change his fate, but destroy everyone who once betrayed him. Last time, a broken millionaire named David Sinclair was mocked, abandoned, and trapped in a wheelchair, until a mysterious woman handed him a strange meal, whispering, "Eat this and you will walk again." Against all logic, David felt his paralyzed legs twitch for the first time in years. But was it real or something much darker? David couldn't breathe. His hand gripped the table as if the entire restaurant were spinning. He stared down at his legs that had been lifeless for years. His foot moved. It wasn't much. Just the faintest shift. But to him it was an earthquake. He leaned back, shaking, his mind racing. Impossible. This can't be happening. Every doctor, every specialist, every world-renowned surgeon had said the same thing: permanent paralysis. Get used to the chair. But now, after one spoonful of some strange, bitter broth, he had felt something no one said he ever would. But then the doubt struck. What if it's a trick? A hallucination? Poison messing with my nerves? Sweat dripped down his temple. His stomach burned from the strange concoction, but with that fire came a pulse, like electricity racing down into his legs. He tried again. Concentrated. And this time his thigh muscle jerked violently. David gasped. He slammed both hands over his mouth to muffle the cry. For years he had begged for this feeling. Now here it was. And he was terrified. That night David couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, the city lights glowing like distant stars. His mind replayed the woman's words on a loop. Eat this and you will walk again. Who was she? How did she know his name? Why him? He searched his memory but drew blanks. He had never seen her before. Yet her eyes carried something familiar. By morning, the fire in his legs had not vanished. In fact, it was stronger. He swung himself out of bed, grabbed the edge of the dresser, and tried standing. For years, this had been nothing but failure, a cruel reminder of what he had lost. But this time his knees locked. His body wobbled. He was standing. David's chest heaved. A laugh burst from his throat, half disbelief, half hysteria. He collapsed back into his chair, trembling. It's real. It's real. But his joy came with paranoia. If word got out, if his rivals knew he was recovering, they'd stop him before he got back on his feet, literally and figuratively. He needed answers. For the next week, David scoured the city, searching for the old woman. He revisited the restaurant, pressed the waiters, even bribed staff to check surveillance. Nothing. It was like she had appeared from thin air and vanished just as quickly. Yet every night he felt his legs grow stronger. The tingling sharpened. The muscles twitched. Within days he could stand for nearly a full minute without collapsing. And with every step, rage returned. He remembered Martin's toast at the gala. His fiancée's cruel note. The friends who abandoned him. The rivals who stole his businesses. They thought he was finished. A broken man to be pitied, or worse, mocked. But now? Now he was rising again. And this time he wanted revenge. One evening, exhausted from his secret exercises, David sat by the window overlooking the city. He thought about the woman again. Who was she? Why give him this gift? That's when his phone buzzed. A private number. Normally he ignored unknown calls. But something in his gut told him to answer. A rasping voice on the other end. You've begun to heal, haven't you? David froze. His grip tightened on the phone. Who are you? Not who. What? A shadow. A debt long overdue. David's skin crawled. What do you want from me? The voice chuckled. Cold. You'll find out soon enough. For now, keep eating. The box is not empty yet. David's blood ran cold. He turned toward the small wooden box on his kitchen counter. It was true, there was still more of the strange meal left. But how did this caller know? Before he could speak again, the line went dead. From that day forward, David obeyed. Each night he ate from the box. And with each serving, his strength multiplied. 2 weeks later, he did the unthinkable. He took his first steps. Clumsy. Shaking. But steps nonetheless. He gripped the walls, staggering like a newborn deer, laughing and crying all at once. He was walking again. But here's the thing, the more he walked, the darker his thoughts became. He didn't just want his life back. He wanted theirs destroyed. He started small. Martin Klein, the rival who humiliated him at the gala, was holding a press conference about his company's new investment. David showed up unannounced, still in his wheelchair, feigning weakness. Cameras flashed, reporters swarmed. Martin smirked, confident his old rival was still broken. But as Martin began speaking, David slowly rose from his chair. The crowd gasped. Cameras whirred. Gasps turned into shouts. Martin's face went pale as David took step after step, steady and sure, across the stage. And then David leaned into the microphone and whispered words the entire audience would never forget. "You should never laugh at a man before he stands." The room erupted. Reporters flooded him with questions. Martin's empire began to wobble under the weight of speculation. And for David, it was only the beginning. That night, David received another call. Same rasping voice. "Good. You've tasted vengeance. But remember, the gift you've been given has a price." David's smile faltered. His hands clenched. What price? But the line went dead again. He stood there in silence, the city lights blinking below. For the first time in weeks, fear crept back into his chest. Yes, he was healing. Yes, he was rising again. But at what cost? The dreams began shortly after. He would wake in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, visions of fire and shadows filling his head. Voices whispered in languages he didn't understand. And always, always, the old woman's eyes staring through him. The more he walked, the darker the dreams became. And yet he couldn't stop. Because now revenge wasn't just a desire. It was a need. A hunger. David didn't realize it yet, but the miracle that was giving him back his legs was also pulling him into something far more dangerous. David Sinclair was walking again. The world that mocked him was about to kneel. But with every step forward he was also walking deeper into a trap he didn't yet see. Because gifts like these? They always come with a price. Last time, David Sinclair, the paralyzed millionaire abandoned by everyone, ate a strange meal from a mysterious woman. Against all odds, his legs began to heal. Slowly, painfully, he stood again, and used his first steps to humiliate his rival. But miracles this dark always come with a price, and David is about to find out just how high it is. David's world was shifting again. Each morning now he woke with power surging through his veins. The stiffness in his legs was nearly gone. His steps grew steadier, more confident. Within weeks he was walking like a man who had never known a wheelchair. But while his body was healing, his mind was twisting. The dreams didn't stop. Shadows whispered. The old woman's voice hissed warnings he couldn't understand. And worst of all, the hunger. It started as cravings at night. But no matter what David ate, steak, caviar, imported delicacies, the hunger gnawed inside him, insatiable. The only time it faded was when he ate from the wooden box. And the box never seemed to empty. That terrified him. Detective Hash the investigation. David couldn't take it anymore. He hired private investigators, paid hackers, scoured every lead. Who was the woman? What was this food? One night his head of security, a grizzled ex-Marine named Holt, dropped a folder on his desk. "Boss, you're not gonna like this." Inside were photographs. Surveillance. Documents. The woman's name was Elena Marrow. Once a brilliant biochemist. Fired from multiple labs for unethical experiments. Vanished a decade ago. Rumored to be dabbling in forbidden sciences, a blend of chemistry, herbalism, and darker rituals. David's stomach dropped. In one blurry photo, Elena was leaving a burned-down clinic. Another showed her speaking with men in alleyways, faces hidden. "She's bad news," Holt muttered. "Whatever she fed you. It's not natural." David slammed the folder shut. He didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to admit it. Because for the first time in years he felt alive. Powerful. And nothing was going to take that from him. High voltage sign revenge expands. With his strength returning, David began striking at those who mocked him. His ex-fiancée Rachel, who left him for Martin. David bought out the real estate firm she worked for, only to fire her publicly during a board meeting, cameras rolling. The business partners who abandoned him? David exposed their offshore accounts and let the government tear them apart. Each act of revenge was precise, calculated, and delicious. But Clara, the mysterious voice on the phone, was right. The hunger wasn't fading. If anything, it was growing. One stormy evening, as lightning cracked over the skyline, David returned home to find his penthouse windows wide open. Rain lashed inside. And in the corner, sitting calmly in his leather chair, was Elena. The old woman. She hadn't aged a day. David's blood turned to ice. How the hell did you get in here? Her smile was unsettling. Doors don't keep me out. I came to see how my little miracle is doing. David's fists clenched. What did you give me? Her eyes glittered. Exactly what I promised. A second chance. But second chances require repayment. David's voice shook. What kind of repayment? Elena leaned forward, her whisper cutting through the thunder. Blood, Mr. Sinclair. Blood for strength. You've already felt it, haven't you? That hollow hunger? The emptiness only my gift can fill. David staggered back. The hunger roared in his stomach at her words as if confirming it. No. I won't play your sick game. Elena only smiled wider. Oh, but you already are. And then she was gone. No doors opened. No footsteps. Just gone. David collapsed, shaking. He wanted to deny it. To believe she was bluffing. But deep down he knew. The box. The hunger. The growing darkness. It was true. Days passed. David tried to resist. He threw the box into the trash. Burned it. But every night it returned to his kitchen counter, full again. The hunger grew unbearable. He felt weaker when he resisted, his legs trembling, his chest heavy. Until one night at a private gala he nearly collapsed. Guests gasped as he staggered, gripping a champagne table. Sweat poured down his face. And then someone brushed past him. A stranger. Their arm grazed his. David felt a surge of energy. His hunger lessened just for a second. His eyes widened. It isn't just the food, it's people. He stumbled into the restroom, shaking violently. Staring at his reflection, his pupils dilated, his skin pale. His hands trembled as he whispered to himself. What the hell have you done to me, Elena? But David was no fool. He was a strategist, a survivor. If the gift required a cost, then so be it. But instead of letting it consume him, he would control it. Weaponize it. The same hunger that threatened to break him, he would use to break them. The empire that mocked him, the enemies who tried to bury him, the rivals who stole his throne, none of them would see it coming. And when they finally realized what David Sinclair had become, it would be too late. David Sinclair was walking again. His empire was rising. His enemies were falling. But the miracle in his veins was not a gift, it was a curse. And soon the world would discover that some revenges are paid not in money, but in blood. David Sinclair had it all, wealth, power, and now, a dark miracle that let him walk again. But every gift has a cost. The hunger inside him was growing. And the mysterious woman who gave him the cure was demanding blood. Tonight, David must make the final choice, surrender to the curse, or turn it into the ultimate revenge. David stood at the top of his penthouse balcony, staring down at the glowing city below. His legs felt strong. His body, reborn. But his soul? Torn. The hunger inside him was louder than ever, pounding in his chest like a second heartbeat. He'd fed on the stew, he'd stolen energy through touches, but it wasn't enough anymore. Every time he resisted, his vision blurred, his muscles trembled. And when he gave in, the rush was euphoric. Addictive. Elena's words echoed in his head. Blood for strength. That is the price. Meanwhile, Victor, the man who tried to take his company, was planning his final move. He gathered lawyers, investors, and the last of David's enemies. This is it, Victor sneered. Tomorrow we file the motion. By the time Sinclair realizes, he'll be stripped of his power. He'll have nothing left but that cursed chair. But Victor had no idea that David wasn't just walking again, he was something else entirely. And he was coming for him. The next night, the grand ballroom of the Empire Hotel glittered with chandeliers and champagne. Victor stood at the podium, announcing his victory. As of tomorrow, Sinclair Enterprises will be under new management. Together, we'll restore what David Sinclair destroyed. The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed. And then the doors slammed open. Gasps filled the room. David Sinclair walked in. No wheelchair. No cane. Just calm, steady steps. His black suit gleamed, his eyes burning with something sharp and dangerous. Victor, David's voice cut through the air, smooth as glass. You're announcing my funeral a little too early. Victor froze. You're supposed to be crippled. David smiled. Supposed to be. But here I am. The crowd murmured. Reporters scribbled. Investors whispered in panic. And then David struck. He pulled out files, documents, recordings, the evidence Clara and Holt helped gather. The truth spilled onto the giant projector screen behind him. Victor caught on hidden camera stealing, lying, harassing. Every sin laid bare. The audience turned. Gasps, shouts, outrage. Victor's face went pale. He tried to speak, but his words drowned in chaos. David stepped closer, his whisper cold. You tried to bury me. But I don't stay buried. And now you'll drown in your own poison. Security dragged Victor away, humiliated, destroyed. The crowd cheered David's return. Cameras flashed, headlines already forming. David Sinclair rises again. That night, David returned to his penthouse, victorious but trembling. The hunger was unbearable now. His legs quivered. His veins burned. And waiting for him, as always, was Elena. You've tasted revenge, she whispered. Now taste the truth. You can never be free of me. The hunger is yours forever. David's jaw tightened. You think you own me? She laughed softly. I gave you life. Without me, you're nothing. David stepped forward, his eyes dark but steady. No. You gave me power. But you made one mistake. He grabbed the wooden box, lifted it high and smashed it against the marble floor. The stew spilled, sizzling like acid, evaporating into black smoke. Elena screamed, her form flickering. No. You fool. Without it you'll wither. David's voice thundered. I'd rather burn than live as your puppet. The hunger ripped through him, tearing at his insides. His body shook violently. Blood trickled from his nose. But David didn't scream. He stood tall, staring Elena in the eyes as she dissolved into nothing. The city lights blurred around him. His chest heaved. And then silence. He collapsed. When he woke, sunlight poured through the windows. His chest ached. His veins felt hollow. But his legs still moved. Weak but alive. The box was gone. The hunger was gone. And Elena, gone forever. David had paid the price. He'd destroyed the curse before it consumed him. And though he knew his strength might fade one day, he didn't care. Because now he had something far greater than power. He had freedom. David Sinclair rebuilt his empire, stronger than ever. His enemies ruined, his reputation restored. But when people asked him how he learned to stand again, he only smiled and said, sometimes the greatest miracles come with the darkest tests. And sometimes revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. Would you take the deal if it meant walking again, even at such a cost? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where karma serves its justice in the most unexpected ways.